Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show and tell presented by our team here at FS. So happy that you're joining us today. I'm your host for today's webinar, Michael Fisher, VP of Menswear, and I am, as always, joined by some amazing colleagues from around the world. We hope that you are inspired by today's webinar. As always, we'll be going through for the next 45 minutes or so and presenting things that are currently in our zeitgeist and inspiring us, and a lot of things are wonderful confirmations of our cultural sentiments and design aesthetics, etc. Before we jump into today's webinar, a reminder, the next one is on Wednesday, June 2nd. So you can go ahead and set your calendars by that. And our Director of Marketing, Sarah, is going to talk a little bit about an amazing event we have coming up tomorrow.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, tomorrow is our biannual Trend Immersion event. Once again, we will be hosting this digitally, which is a little sad for us as we love to be in the same room with you, but it also opens up the opportunity to see more of you from around the world. So during this interactive webinar, for those of you who are not familiar, our editorial team, many of whom you will hear from today, will break down everything that you need to know for the fall/winter 22-23 season. This event will not only explain the design direction and top trends in colors, materials, and pattern and graphics for fall/winter 22-23, but it will also give you the opportunity to network with the FS team and other industry professionals from leading brands around the world, and also engage in critical thinking as our team breaks down and analyzes cultural shifts and their impact on consumer behavior and design. The event is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and I will put the links to register in the chat box. We hope that you will join us.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we're always very excited about this event each season, and digitally or in person, it will still be just as inspiring. So give me 1 second. I'm going to just bring up our links for today's webinar. And I believe our beauty teams, Mallory will be starting us off. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mallory. I'm a beauty strategist here at Fashion Snoops. And my first link is really fun. I'm so excited about this brand. So it's called Vacation Sunscreen, and they have completely embraced the 80s, 90s retro aesthetic to market this new sunscreen. So if you want to watch the video, it's pretty short. And then we can go to the main site and I can explain more. So it's a really interesting way to market a new sunscreen. So aside from just the delightful vacation goals aesthetic, they're kind of crowdsourcing the promotion of this, where you select your role at the company. I already got my role. I'm the official blue Curacao taster, I believe. And so you get this like little business card. There are business incentives. There's a high pressure sales pamphlet with all the information about the sunscreen and its ingredients. And I'm loving everything about this. I just think it's such a fun, unique way to market a new beauty product. In addition to the fact that it's just in time for summer, we know that sun care is totally in, and that, you know, the sensorial retro experience is really resonating with consumers. So I love this. So I encourage all of you to get your complimentary role at the company and your VIP card.
You should have made crafted a cocktail today with blue curacao.
Oh man, a little early, but I mean, who knows? You know, we're all on island time these days, but
Mhm.
that's an excellent idea. So my next link is for this amazing series that I found on Twitter like about a week ago. So this art teacher directed his students to do covers for the New Yorker, envision new covers for the New Yorker about life post-pandemic. And I've just picked some of my favorites here. And what I think is so interesting about these covers is that they show such different attitudes towards post-pandemic life. Some are hopeful, some are grieving, some are sad, some are joyful. And in addition, the art is just so amazing. You know, each style is so different. And it's just such an interesting glimpse into how individual and experienced the pandemic has been, which is something that we called out in our emotional landscapes report. So I encourage you all, I linked the original Twitter thread with all of them in the show and tell links. So definitely check that out because there are some just gorgeous examples in here. And then my last link is this thing called the Green City Project, which is just filling me with all sorts of hope for post-pandemic, you know, reimagining of cities. I know there's been a lot of discussion about a green recovery to the pandemic. And so this project is envisioning what it might look like if we change cities to have greener spaces, more pedestrian walkways, more forestry. I love this one, the Flatiron District in New York. This is like my ideal. We know that a lot of cities are dealing with this issue of, do we keep these, you know, sidewalk restaurant areas that we built? Do we, you know, keep the level of cars that we've had? And so I thought this was just such an interesting way, and especially the way it was done from a graphics design perspective, unfolding this beautiful greenery like a carpet. So just visually, I love that, in addition to this new future that we can hopefully look forward to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mallory. All right, my links are up first. So the first thing I wanted to share today is really just an article, and I'll just kind of give you an intro about it, but you can click it and read it in your own time. This really inspired me. It was in the April issue of Harpers Bazaar, and it was all about new wave of female designers that are changing menswear. And something that really stood out to me, you can see some of the ladies that they focus on here. And some of these collections are favorites of ours here at FS. But one thing that was really interesting to me is Emily from Bode, that we're very familiar with. It was not until 2017 when she was presenting at New York Fashion Week. She was the first female designer to present a menswear collection at New York Fashion Week. And for someone like me that has been in the menswear industry my entire career, I was completely oblivious to the fact that she was the first woman designing menswear at New York Fashion Week. And I just was shocked by that. I'm just going to scroll through here. Really, it's just beautiful imagery of women wearing some of this menswear. But just some things that stuck out to me is that when she was talking about how difficult it was to get her collection going, you know, there was a time when a few top retailers, including Barney's, had purchased her collection, but she was getting a lot of pushback from these men that are very prevalent in the menswear part of the industry. She said there was a group of boys who always went to Pitti Uomo together, which for those of you that don't know, it's the major trade show for menswear. And she basically said because she wasn't in that circle, that they really weren't paying her a lot of attention. They would come into her showroom and say, you know, your kind of design is never going to sell. And of course, now she's been doing amazing. She was CFDA Emerging Designer in 2019. And one thing that she really loves is that men and women couples come into her store and shop together for the same garment that they're going to share, which I think is a whole new amazing evolution of gender neutral, which, you know, isn't even that relevant of a word anymore. This was another great quote I loved by Grace Wells Bonner, who's another amazing UK-based designer. She said, I love working within frameworks in menswear because you can be really disruptive. There are subtle changes that can be made to menswear pieces that give them a new or deeper meaning. And as someone that works in menswear, I really thought that was a very interesting perspective. But when you get a chance, please, please, please do read this article. It really makes you understand the challenges that a woman who's designing menswear typically is going through in this industry. But I also just really love the editorial as well. My next two links go together. So this is a great confirmation of a men's seasonal narrative that we had for fall, winter 21, 22, which is called Crossroads. Very much about nostalgia, appreciating your grandparents' style. So the Wall Street Journal did a great article a week or two ago, all about how people are wanting to cop grandpa style now, especially Gen Z. They cite some really fun Instagram accounts that I encourage you to follow right now. My favorite one is called Gram Parents, emphasis on the gram. There's also a really great book that they feature in this article called Chinatown Pretty, where two women went through and photographed elders in various Chinatowns in different cities like Chicago, LA, New York. But I just really love this article. It's really fun, it's cute and refreshing. I think what I really love the most is that these influencers that are featured, and I'm actually just going to show you the account while I talk, they're just wearing what they always have worn. So, they kind of point and say this old thing, but, this has always been their style. It's just that we are appreciating individualism so much more in the last couple of years. And of course, older people really are a beautiful illustration of that. And this is certainly a macro trend that we've been following at FS for years. I think originally we called it third act, but there's been so many versions of it. But I just really, really loved this. So you should certainly follow this account. It's really refreshing. If you have an WSJ subscription, you can read through the article and kind of figure out what's going on with all of these trends. And then my other link goes with it. It is a New York Post article that is just from the other day. This guy is a little different. He's not just wearing what he's always worn. This account that they're featuring, they call him the Hipster Gramps. He's on an Instagram account that has over 1 million followers. I will quickly go right to the account so you can see it. His grandson set it up. They're in Germany. And so his grandson basically wanted to photograph his grandfather in his streetwear. So there's a little over 400 posts now, 1 million followers. But you can see here's granddad wearing Dior, he's wearing Thrasher, of course, Nike. It goes on and on. It's really, really fun to see. And they're just having a lot of fun with it. It's a really cute project for the two of them to work on. So it's a little different from grandparents wearing what they always wear. This one is actually photographed in streetwear. So
Michael, is he styling him or is he dressing up that cool on his own?
No, in this instance, his grandson is styling him.
Okay.
But he apparently, if you read the article, it's a really interesting, they've been spending so much time together for it. And his granddad looks so forward to it every day. They take a different shot. So he's very into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, but yeah, and also definitely look on Amazon for that book about Chinatown elder style. It's very cool as well. And then my final link today is from Fast Company. It actually goes really beautifully with what Mallory just shared. So there is a developer in Detroit currently who is taking, they're calling them caterpillars. They're steel structures that are typically used on farms. They're called Quonset huts. And they were prefabricated, quick to build metal structures that were made by the US Navy during World War II. Today, they're typically used on farms. Well, this developer decided that he would start actually creating these residential Quonsets. And so they are currently in Detroit, and I'm gonna flip through this so you can see they each have a walkway. They're really beautiful inside. Of course, they're utilitarian and very lofty, but I think there's a really interesting simplicity to it. You'll see the inside here in just a second. To take an entire Caterpillar and develop it only costs $1.5 million. So they add simple interiors, they add outdoor spaces. And so the developer, his name is Kafka. It's his attempt to create affordable but well-designed buildings into the middle of a city. He says, I do what we call Home Depot architecture. It's figuring out how to use Home Depot materials and make good architecture out of it. I think what's really cool about it is they purposely place these in locations where you get a sunrise view in your bedroom and a sunset view in your living room. And he says that is intentional. It's all about light. The real benefit of the huts let us build a project very inexpensively. And it also gives people a feeling that because of all the gravity, they feel like they're actually living in a cathedral of sorts. So I really, really love that. This is what they look like before they actually start creating the interiors. So love seeing more and more examples of doing efficient, high design housing in urban areas. All right, those are my links. So next up we have Carrera. Hi, Carrera.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Carrera. I'm the Director of Culture. My first couple links today is really a confession about how much I love physical journals that cover culture, that cover sustainability or technology. I love to have the physical object. They're always so beautiful. This one's upside down. I always love to look through them and look at all the graphic design, all the personal essays. But for whatever reason, over the past month, the ones that I've been accumulating are all on sustainability. So I wanted to do a roundup on my favorite ones and share them with you. The first one I did not buy physically, but if you guys don't know about Atmos, this is one of our favorite sites here at Fashion Snoops for sustainability. They really approach it from a cultural angle, a technological angle. I feel like the way that they conceive of the climate is always so interesting. They'll take a spiritual lens of it, they'll take an ancestral lens on it, they'll take a, they'll do something like look at the history of plastic and then kind of anthropomorphize plastic and its journey through the ecosystem. So I love the way they approach it. It's always fresh. And I really recommend you guys checking this one out. The next one that I have here is Gossamer, and that's the one I was showing here before. Really beautiful graphic design. Again, it's another it's a journal, it's a magazine that's they call themselves, a magazine on all things green. So they talk about, of course, the environment. They also have a strong CBD and marijuana lens to everything they do. So they kind of bring that in. It becomes really playful. I really enjoyed reading it. Some of the standouts were in this one on garbage. Everything in it is about, garbage from different angles. So they talk about prison food and how there needs to be an overhaul of that system. They'll talk about what we're doing with our garbage, fruit leathers with discarded foods becoming materials. So I really loved that they explored garbage for this one. And then the last one I'll talk about is mold. Again, another sustainability one. This has been one of my favorites. This issue in particular, they talk about seeds, and the articles in here are so fantastic and interesting. They talk about decolonizing the menu. They talk about ancestral seeds and really bringing back, there's just one editorial on how they go to Norway and they search through an ancient barn for ancient barley seeds, and then they find 6 of them and they start growing them, and they bring back this ancient seed that hasn't been touched by genetic engineering or anything. So I was really interested in just how much there is in here on seeds. But every issue is they kind of build themselves as sustainable, but also on the future of food. So this one I recommend the most if you guys are interested in this kind of thing. And if you are, I would love to know in the chat which ones you read, which ones you think I should read next. But those, that's my roundout of culture meets sustainability journals.
I love these, and anyone that doesn't live in New York, we have the best newsstands to this day. I know it probably is so cliche to say, but just getting lost for an hour in a newsstand, it's just the best thing, because there's always magazines that to this day I've never heard of, and they're so fun to discover. I'm sure you do the same, because you always know things I've never even heard of, Carrera.
Yeah, these I actually found. There's this new beautiful. Honestly, I should take pictures for the site because it's this new plant store, and inside it's so beautifully merchandised. And one side of it is all like eco-friendly candles and reading materials. I think actually I will take photos for the site because it's so well done. And that's in Bushwick on Star Street. Okay, so this next one was something that was brought to my attention from an intern. Shayla sent me this. And it's just this wonderful website. They do such a good job again with like the graphic design and the visual structuring of imagery. But I loved this again, I guess because Earth Day was in the past month. I was on all this Earth stuff. But 5 scenarios for Earth was a really interesting way of looking at the future and looking at the long-term future of the planet. So I loved digging into these of like, what would happen if an asteroid hit? What would happen if the polar ice caps melted? And just really had a lot of fun on this site. So I decided to share it with you guys. Yeah, anything to do with, predictions on, far away, it always tickles my fancy. And then the last thing I have is the Seismic Powered suit. So this is a project designed for the elderly. It's meant to be kind of like an exoskeleton that helps you with everyday movements. If you are older, getting up, sitting down, bending over can be quite a challenge. So what it is, it's like just like a very comfortable, I love the feel of it is very athleisure, but it's meant to just kind of assist you with those daily motions. And it's a trend that we've been following for a while, specifically in terms of like, yes, there's adaptability, there's these things that like if you have your arm amputated, then you can replace that, you can kind of regain that function. But what about expandability? So like I can already jump, but what can I put on that can make me jump higher? And what can I, what extra limbs can I put on that will make me be able to achieve new functions? So this is really exciting. I think this project is actually from a while ago. So to see this continue and to be already so far, 2 years ago at CES, I saw Delta Airlines had an exoskeleton for their baggage workers where you could lift like, 100-pound suitcase and make it feel like it was a coffee cup. So I'm always excited about this space. I'm excited to see what happens here.
Great. Thank you, culture experts. Speaking of culture expert, we have another one. Erza. Hi, Erza.
Hi, everybody. So my first link is a great segue to Carrera's example. This article starts with saying about 15% of the world population live with some sort of disability, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the fashion industry. So moving towards representation, there's this New York-based genderless brand private policy that's collaborated with YouTuber Chella Man. And they've created this jewelry that celebrates the beauty within the deaf and hard of hearing communities. So this collection of gold-plated jewelry, it looks like an art piece. It was created to complement rather than hide hearing devices or implants. And then my next link is similar. So in the same month, people are applauding ASOS for featuring a model with a cochlear hearing implant on their website to promote their earrings. The feedback has been extremely positive for normalizing these devices. And hopefully we see more of this in the industry, because now more than ever, we're looking to the industry to communicate inclusivity, equality, and empowerment. So this is a great step in the right direction.
I love this. There's been so many links over the last few months in these meetings with a focus on the ear. Very interesting, some of the jewelry that we've shared. So this is awesome.
Thank you. And then my last one, it's a bit dystopian. It's called Mind Bank AI. But in a quest to live forever, it's essentially this, I guess you could say, like a virtual diary that becomes a personal memoir. And it's advertised as a way to grow through self-reflection. The only question is like, how much do we really trust to give this company every single part of ourselves? There's a little video that explains it, but it's your digital AI twin.
Do you want me to play the video?
Yes, please.
All right, give me 1 second.
Hi, I'm your personal digital twin. I learn by asking you many questions. Each answer builds my wisdom. You grow through self-reflection, and I get a little bit closer to becoming you. Let me show you around. Here's our training screen, where you can view our progress based on the number of questions you've answered for this phase of my training. Each phase adds a new dimension to my abilities, and the possibilities are endless. The mind map section is like our consciousness. Different questions will challenge you to reflect and create a more well-rounded version of us. Each swipe revealing more details about our thinking and connecting us to similar personalities. Think of it like collecting cards as a kid, only for your mind. You'll even be able to ask him a question. Hi, Leonardo da Vinci. What do you think of Mind Bank? Socrates once said, to know thyself. And who knows us better than people in our inner circle? Each interaction will help us evolve and store wisdom for eternity.
I always wanted to know, what was the happiest moment of your life?
In the end, I am nothing without you. But together, we can move humanity forward. Let's go beyond.
Yes, it's very, very dystopian, but I guess a cool way to live forever and create a digital twin.
For sure. All right, thank you, Erza. From our women's team, we have Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hi, everyone. My name's Danny. I'm the women's strategist here at FS. So my first link, there's not too much visually, so we can hang at the top for now. Nona Source is LVMH's new dead stock fabric platform that resells unused fabrics from LVMH brands to designers and those who prefer to use upcycled fabrics for their creations. The name Nona is inspired by the Roman goddess of the same name, who is known to represent and be the holder and weaver of the thread of life, and was started by those within their entrepreneurship program, and they were asked to pilot it full-time as a new arm of the business. This, of course, comes at the heels of a much needed change to battle unused waste within the industry and shows how LVMH really took that feedback based on what the industry and future is calling for and integrates it into a new strategy in order to stay relevant. So we can scroll to the bottom. There's a video of the creators introducing themselves. We can maybe listen for like a minute max, and there's subtitles.
Je suis Marie Falguera.
Je suis Romain Brabo.
Anne Prieur-Dupéret, entrepreneur chez Nona Source.
J'ai assisté au stockage des matières qu'on adore appeler les belles endormies chez Nona Source. J'avais envie de les réveiller et dans ce cadre-là, j'ai réfléchi à une solution qui puisse permettre de les collecter, de les expertiser, de les revaloriser et de les remettre à disposition à travers une plateforme.
Nona Source est une plateforme sur laquelle les jeunes designers peuvent s'approvisionner à des prix très compétitifs de matières exceptionnelles qu'on a choisies au sein des maisons LVMH. Parce qu'on veut vraiment révolutionner un petit peu le sourcing et on sait très bien que la relation à la recherche de matière pour les jeunes créateurs est très sensorielle et on a beaucoup travaillé l'expérience du touch and feel pour pouvoir rendre un rendu digital le plus beau possible en travaillant sur les photos, les vidéos, toute la qualification des matières.
Thanks, Michael. So yeah, as my colleague Jenna said, I just love how one of the creators called them the unused fabric sleeping beauties. Like there's still so much beauty to be created from them. And the last note that I'll say on this one is that brands owned by LVMH's rival Kering will be welcome to buy fabrics from Nona, which I think is just a great example of two competitors coming together within the industry for the greater good of the whole. And I think it's just a nice sentiment overall. And then my next link, further speaking to the potential of discarded fabrics, is a really cool brand that I've just been watching and I found through some of my research. We can click through the shop tab at the top to look through their collections. Polar Deem is a Black-owned, upcycled, and circular slow fashion brand that reinvents pre-loved donated pieces from their clients, and they work to create with those pieces for their own collections. They really make a conscious effort to make use of anything that they receive from their clients. So it could be clothing, backpacks, or curtains. Their style is, of course, as you can see, super unique, with kind of this maximalist approach, with oversized silhouettes and just pieces that are so special that you want to keep them forever. This, of course, connects to a topic and conversation that we've been discussing at FS just around conscious consumption, and where people and consumers are really putting a lot of thought into the items that they purchase, where their money's going, who and what it's supporting, and with the intent to keep the items for as long as they can. So that's it for me.
This is great. And some of the pieces are actually really affordable.
I know.
There's some really expensive ones, but there's some affordable ones as well. Love the colors. Thank you, Danny. This is great.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up is Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda. I am a home and interiors strategist at FS. My first link is this great collab that I found with the social culture science media platform Mashable and Walmart, of all places. And they created together this virtual house tour where, you know, you can use the directionals to walk through the house, take a look into different rooms. What I like about this one in particular, we've seen a lot of these concepts over the past year, essentially, and some of them are really elevated and beautifully designed. And, you know, a lot of them are, you know, done by small designers or higher end brands that feel a lot more escapist. But the point of this one is to feel very familiar. And it's supposed to mimic the feeling of going over to a friend's house and just having that moment of just, you know, where you look around your friend's house as you go through it and you know, take a mental inventory of what kind of space they have, what kind of decor pieces they have, what kind of lifestyle they have. And all of that is cataloged in your brain consciously or unconsciously. And it's just such a, you know, everyday experience that we haven't had. So that's what this platform is kind of hoping to recreate. And of course, it's also a shoppable platform. You know, they've combined, you know, being able to shop the Walmart products mixed with the Mashable media experience, where they have quizzes you can take or different exercises you can do. So they have a meditation that you can do with a meditation guru. They have gardening tips from their gardening expert, you know, cooking lessons in the kitchen. So it's just like a whole mix of different things, and it's very quick, so you can start exploring. It's not super huge, but we can just take a look through a couple of the rooms and, you know, see the little, you know, buttons on the screen tell you different cues to either, you know, you can shop a product, you can play a video, you can learn from an expert that Mashable has brought into the scene. And it's just like, it's so simple. And I just thought it was a great way for such a big brand to get involved in this new way of, you know, consumer engagement that, again, we've only really seen from smaller designers or design firms that take a much more luxury approach to this kind of technology.
This is great. You'd never would expect a brand like Walmart to kind of be playing in this space.
Yeah.
This is really fun.
Yeah, and it's like a really, you know, comforting looking home too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I love that.
My second link is a little bit about, you know, what the future of trade shows are going to look like. And we at FS have had roundtables with, you know, innovators and leaders in the trade show space to discuss exactly what this might be. But I wanted to highlight this great article from Business of Home, speaking specifically to NYC and Design and New York Design Week, and how they have specifically pivoted their trade show model for a post-COVID world. So over the past 6 months, they've become a independent nonprofit, and, you know, their newly appointed executive director, Alyssa Black, has stated that she really wants to transform the trade show experience and have NYC and Design really lead the way and be at the forefront of bringing equitable opportunity back into the city. And as, you know, a lot of us know, really urban spaces. New York specifically has been, hit hard by the pandemic, even as home sales boom. Obviously, hospitality has been gutted, and the city itself, a lot of people fled to more suburban areas. So NYC and Design is really kind of tackling this problem and trying to put their focus more on bringing the city back to life with all of the people that they bring into their trade shows. So they've started a couple new initiatives. One of them is a design corps, which is a volunteer squad of designers who offer pro bono services and advice to just local community members and businesses. And then another one, they have a couple different grant options as well that are going to be awarding money to young designers who come up with space ideas that really foster a sense of community. So, designers who can create these public spaces are going to be getting this grant money to really implement them into the city. And this is all through the nonprofit. They also are doing a collaboration, a residency program with Hudson Yards for recent design grads to showcase their work in a pop-up format. So, I just love how this particular show is focusing on community and rebuilding, giving back to community. And I think that that's a central theme that we're going to see going forward post-pandemic. My last major link is the Little Free Diverse Library. So this was a movement that was started by a New York City educator, and I thought it was great. I think we all probably may have experience with these little libraries, especially in the US. I have one right down the street where you take a book and ideally you would leave a book. It's a one-for-one trade-off model, but it's totally free in that sense. And it's just great for, it's great for kids, adults can use it too. But, it's really important to address that there are a lot of, racial inequities within the publishing space, and highlighting and supporting Black creators, Black authors, different artists of color who are, creating in this space. It's just really important to highlight their work too, and to talk about stories that don't necessarily always focus on trauma or pain, but also explore Black excellence, Black joy, and livelihood, the full human experience. And I just love this particular initiative. So it's something that, with me having one down the street, I'm really excited to contribute to this movement. And it's totally grassroots, all community run. It's become this nationwide movement. And I just thought it was a really great thing to share.
I love this. It's a whole new spin on the library. It's great.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to do a really quick follow-up from last month. I talked about the Loamy composter, which if you weren't here, or just to refresh, it's a at-home composter that's small enough to fit on your countertop, but it does all of the compost work for you. So you don't need an outdoor unit. You don't need a commercial facility pickup model. You put the food scraps or bioplastics, which is huge for a home composter that it can do bioplastics, into this little machine, and you run it overnight, and it will have the topsoil ready for you in a matter of hours. And no composter exists on the market like this one. It's the first one, and they just launched their early bird pricing on Indiegogo, and I said that I would follow up with what it ended up being. So they are marketing. It's actually less expensive than I thought it was going to be. They're going to be selling it for around $400 for the unit, which I thought it would be more. The early bird pricing was close to like $280, so it was pretty significant discount, if you got in really early. But I just wanted to follow up and show that with you guys one more time with the new information. It's such a great innovation. I would love to have one. I don't need one. I have a commercial pickup, but for people who don't live in areas that offer that pickup service, or don't have space to do an outdoor backyard compost themselves, this is such a great option.
Yeah, I love this. This is one of the most popular links we've had in a long time. There were so many people interested in it. So thank you for the follow-up.
Yeah,
we were really wondering. Yeah, 400 is not bad, I don't think. All right, next up is Jenna.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Garasio. I'm the VP of Content Strategy. And my two links today are somewhat simple in essence, but I feel like they both had a lot of depth and spoke to me a lot. They're both kind of coming from art that's inspired by the pandemic. So this first link is called Hindsight Project. So this is a project that the creators of Boom, which is one of our team's favorite reference sites. They're really great for contemporary art and new and emerging inspiration. But they started this project. It's a portrait photography project. And the pitch is essentially asking photographers to submit their best portrait of people in a moment of reflection, and then asking the subject to answer, knowing what you know now, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? So if you click on any of these, you can see the actual kind of reflection that each person added. And I think just not only the diversity of different people and the diversity of photography, the lighting, the simplicity, and also the complexity of it all, I think is so beautiful. I wasn't able to attend show and tell our last time, so I had this for last round. So I've been actually looking at this almost every day and seeing kind of as new submissions have been added. And it's interesting because it definitely started as something I think people were reflecting about the pandemic. And as it's kind of grown, and especially as it's gotten more global, you're seeing all these different things really reflecting on maybe things that people thought about during the pandemic, but really have to do with their overall life. And I think what's so beautiful about all of this as well is no matter where someone's coming from or kind of who that person is, even if they seem or look like they're very different from you or live somewhere very different, I just find all of the kind of sentiments so profound and beautiful. So I love looking and tracking this site. I think they're continuing to keep it going. So if anyone needs just a little dose of inspiration, I highly encourage.
Love it. I love how we move through the really profound ones.
Yeah, and then you have a little bit of humor.
It's great.
It's all a nice balance.
I love it.
And then my second and last one is a recent collection by the photographer and artist Anthony Garris. So Anthony Garris is a collage artist. He takes his own photographs and then either cuts them up or collages them to make these different series. And his latest one is called World. And this was completed over the course of last year's lockdown. And his whole idea for this was to engage with landscape despite not being able to engage with the literal landscape, which that concept I found to be very powerful, as of course we are all kind of locked down and in our own little worlds. So what he did, where he normally goes to these different areas and photographs, this time he went through archives of all of the photographs that he's taken and never used before, and basically going through decades of photographs of his and kind of creating these collages on top, which I also find really beautiful. And it seems metaphorical in the sense where you're covering up these places that you can't actually get to, which I think is also the simplicity and complexity of it, I think is just beautiful. So I just want to read a quote that he said, kind of summarizing this work of art for him, because it was very different than what he was used to. But it helped him emotionally process, which I know we've talked a lot about COVID inspired art, and a lot of the artwork is just as inspirational for the artist as it is for the viewer. But just want to say this one quote that I really loved of his. So he says, "My practice relies on collage and landscape as its two foundational pillars. The past year has made one of those pillars a little difficult to rest on. And as a result, the collages I've been making have changed significantly. And I've come to see my archive as just as much more of a source of material as the magazines I obsessively collect and just as obsessively destroy. In this way, the work has changed and my two approaches have unified." So beautiful, beautiful work. His work is currently for sale, I believe, that latest series, but I think it really just kind of takes collaging and what it means to be in our lockdown to a new place.
I love that. That was really nice. Thank you, Jenna. All right, next up we have Melissa from LA. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Moylan. I'm VP of Women's at FS. So the first one that I wanted to share, I thought I kind of just have to laugh at it. It's a new word. It's in the New York Times. You may have seen this. If you're tapped into Gen Z, you might already know about it. It's a niche word that identifies an aesthetic called chuggy. I kind of think of like basic and what we think that means. People that are kind of ignorant to new styles and they fall into more of the older trends, versus chuggy. It's not trendy, but people actively choosing to conform to older styles. You can kind of scroll through the articles. There's a couple images here. There's also really great links within. And it's the term chuggy. It's not exactly basic, but it's not exactly uncool. It's slightly off trend. This emerged on TikTok. However, it was started by this girl that went to Beverly Hills High School. She mentioned it, I guess, 8 years ago, but it's now, kind of reached mainstream. It refers to somebody that's out of date or trying too hard. They're also identified with millennial girl boss energy. It applies to any gender or age. Some of the items and products that they kind of identified as chuggy I thought were funny. Golden Goose sneakers, the Gucci logo belt, anything chevron. Things that are unchuggy, on contrast, would be thrifting, handmade products, Levi's, Birkenstocks, and of note, home decor that's not bought at Target. It seems like it's really fascinating. Like if you watch, there's a TikTok that's also linked to this that kind of explains it. And it seems like they're out to like get people that like buy home decor from Target. It's really funny to me. But I just thought it was kind of fascinating how Gen Z came up with that and how they're identifying that. And it's not, they also kind of mentioned, they interviewed a bunch of people in the article, and they mentioned like everybody probably has something that's chuggy in their wardrobe. So it's not something, that's not necessarily bad, but it's not good at the same time.
Great. And I already know our youth team for sure will include this in one of the slang reports coming up.
Yeah.
I sent them an article earlier this week, but I'm sure a fur vest would definitely be part of that assortment, right? Since you were saying like chevron.
I was also blown away, just the home decor, how they like really lay into it. Like there's a TikTok of them literally going through like the Target home decor, and it's like, this is all chuggy, like all of those little phrases that people buy. All right, so the next one, these two are decidedly unchuggy. The first one, it's a brand called It's Memorial Day. This, I thought this story was really interesting. You can just kind of scroll through. So it's a knitwear label, and it's from Delcy Howe. She's a current FIT student. She's actually on the business end of it, but she grew up crocheting since she was 9 years old. And she developed this over quarantine over the past year. And so it's really playful, it's mood boosting, bright colors. We could obviously see she has a lot of celebrity traction. Bella Hadid has worn her designs. She's also keyed into sustainability and has some projects coming up with sustainable yarns. She's tapped into genderless conversations as well. And I just thought it was really happy, definitely Y2K vibes happening here, and tapping into that like homemade unchuggy aesthetic, but I thought she was a great one to follow. And then another one, also sharing her Instagram link. So this is a designer, you may have heard of her, Autumn Adaigo. She is becoming known as the great next American fashion brand, which is really exciting. And it's a contemporary line. Prices are pretty reasonable here. Like by that, I mean $295 or so for a dress. She's based in LA. She has a lot of Hollywood following already. Kerry Washington, Gabrielle Union have worn her designs. She also has a lot of Silicon Valley attention, which is something that's not so common with new and emerging labels. So I think the founder of Stitch Fix, I don't know if she invested, but she's kind of heightened this brand. Also, she has fashion mentors, Tory Burch and Tommy Hilfiger have mentored her, and what her design is about, she calls it culture, color, and conscience. I kind of liked that it was eclectic. It's definitely also bright and lively. If you've been watching our webinars for the past year, you know we spoke to fashion as a mood boost as we kind of emerged from post-COVID. So I loved how she works in a lot of beautiful African wax prints. There's also some Italian jacquards that are in there, and she's definitely one to watch.
Awesome. And speaking of mood booster, I just want to quickly let everyone know Melissa is heavily quoted in an amazing article in yesterday's WWD about the new Roaring 20s. She has some great insight in the article. So definitely go read that article as soon as this webinar is done. It's really, really good.
Thanks, Michael. It's exciting to look forward to dressing up again and lively mood boosters.
I know we've been talking about it for a year, and now the moment is here to dress up. So we're excited. Thanks, Melissa. Patricia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. So today I wanted to share this great initiative by a designer. His name is Bas Timmer. So he created the shelter suit. It is a wind and waterproof jacket that has a sleeping bag attached to it. So it's also able to provide immediate shelter. So basically it's a jacket, a sleeping bag, and also a duffel bag because you're able to kind of zip it up and make it into a bag. So the idea for this project came when his friend's father passed away. He was homeless, obviously, and he passed away from hypothermia because he was forced to sleep outside of a shelter because they didn't have space for him. So that kind of pushed him to create the shelter suit and to donate these garments to homeless people as well as homeless shelter. Obviously, he didn't have any money to work on this project, so he reached out to several companies to ask for leftover materials. I think at some point he actually reached out to a company that makes tents because, you know, this is supposed to be a shelter. So all the materials are upcycled. And then if you can please click on my next link. In the recent runway season, we saw his collaboration with Chloe. So we saw 3 amazing coats on the runway. Basically, Gabriella Hurst, who's now the creative director for Chloe, reached out to him and asked for this collaboration. So he was able to go into the Chloe archives and look for all the dead stock and leftover materials. I think some of the prints that we saw on the runway were actually designed by Carl. So that's how he was able to kind of like piece together this garment. And what was really interesting is that we saw on the runway the shelter suit inside out. So they really wanted to showcase the leftover materials and all, you know, the craftsmanship that goes into it. So in a way that ties really nicely with Danny's links from before. You know, we see like all these fashion brands like Chloe, also LVMH, you know, using their platform to really promote sustainability, but also in this case, create some sort of social impact, which is really great.
This is awesome. So, so beautiful and really is impactful. I love how you started with the one link and then it kind of pivoted into this like fashion element, which is really cool.
Yeah, the project itself is already really cool, but to see that also being applied to fashion lens is really interesting.
Right. I'm curious, when the show happened, because you're on the women's team, did the press speak about, you know, this when they were doing the reviews of the collection?
Yeah, I think we saw that on the reviews for sure.
Cool.
I mean, those were 3 major looks from her collection too, so definitely got a lot of attention.
Good, good. Thank you, Patricia.